And welcome everybody to the podcast for our book From Fear to Courage 15 Insights to Achieve Your Dreams. And today I have a special guest, one of the authors of the book. He's an international musician who plays a wonderful music, and he's also a coach. And in this book, he contributed a beautiful chapter. And today I'm going to interview him. Welcome, Jeremy Roske.
Grateful to be here, Obed. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And 2 weeks ago, we did a summit, the Courage Book Summit, Turned Fear into Power. And you offered a beautiful song in this summit. How do you look back on that experience?
Oh, it was lovely. Celebrating this triumph, this completion of the book was a real big deal. And to be there with all the fellow authors and the community that's forming around this, it feels like a movement actually, that's just getting off the ground. To be able to come together and connect around how do we move through our fear, use that fear as fuel, because we all have that, we all confront that, and the stories of courage, the stories of triumph through adversity, and not only to share our stories, but to support such incredible causes, that all the proceeds are going towards, and to hear more about that. And yeah, so I mean, the summit for me was just so rich in and all of the things I've just mentioned. And yeah, it felt like a big celebration, and I felt honored to be able to share a song as well.
Yeah, same, man. It was wonderful and felt like a concert when you did your song at the end of this summit. Yeah, and it was so nice because it was online, which was for me also a challenge to get everybody from all over the world logging in on the same time, and it was really nice to hear all of your stories and also hear about your story. And we recorded that, so if people want to hear, if you want to hear that, dear listener, you can watch that recording and see Jeremy play his music.
Oh yeah.
In the chapter, Jeremy, you share your story from fear to courage. You describing the fears you went through and what strategies you used to achieve those dreams. What was for you the drive? What were for you the reasons to participate in a book project?
Well, first of all, just having the invitation, was an honor, to be able to, and we all have our stories, and they all are worthy of being heard. And so to, be invited to step in was a beautiful challenge as well, because it's one thing to be able to communicate our stories, and like you shared in your a little bit in your experience, it's a whole nother thing to bring that through and tell that story in the written word, and all the different versions and iterations and edits and all of the things that go through that. But I think it's a beautiful gift also to be able to reflect, and to a huge part of my music and what I share about in my chapters, well, it is just the reflective power of the creative process, whether it's painting or writing a book, or journaling or writing music, or whatever our expression might be. It's an ability for us to kind of take that and digest it and to process it, and to kind of refine it in a way, and then to be able to harvest the gems, the gold from that, because every experience, in the challenging ones especially, each one of those has a gift. All those challenges, struggles, shadow experiences have a gift within them. And so for me, it was a beautiful process to kind of unravel that, and, pick that apart a little bit, and then, find whatever gifts were in it for myself, and to be able to share those, and then also receive the gifts which were of plenty from all of the other authors and the stories that they shared.
Wow. Beautiful answer. Beautiful answer. You talked about music and the reflection power. I like that. What drives you to? I've seen you perform at the Bali Spirit Festival 2 years ago. It was amazing to see you. Really, you play music from the heart, and the lyrics you sing, it's really has depth and meaning, which I could also feel in your chapter in the book. What drives you to make music, Jeremy?
I mentioned it in, and granted, I've been writing music for a long time. I wrote my first kind of rap song. I was into kind of rap in the early days, and into poetry. And when I was 12 years old, I wrote my first song, and that song came out of an assignment that in school, and the teacher said, create a piece of art, create something that reflects or speaks to something that you care about, that you're concerned about, something that that you that's meaningful for you. And for me, growing up in Hawaii, the environment was a real source. It was my playground, growing up surfing and running in the jungles and exploring things. And also, the beauty of Hawaii is so immense. It's incredible. And the environmental destruction is also was at the time, and probably still is, with development and burning of sugarcane fields, and the pesticides used in the crops of the pineapple that runs into the ocean and kills off the reefs, and then people who are just polluting and littering on the beaches. And so there were many kind of themes. So I wrote a song that was like speaking to those issues, speaking to those challenges and things that I saw. So early on in my journey with music, it was always kind of message driven. It always had some kind of intention behind it, to raise awareness, to raise consciousness, if you will, to bring awareness to important issues that I saw around us, and in the environment, but also just in the human dynamics. And as a young laddie, and it also felt like I started to tour around. We started an organization when I was 13, called the Earth Guardians, and that came out of a similar pulse. There it was the Earth Guardians, and it was kind of a family organization that's still around today. It's been 3 generations of Earth Guardians, and now millions of kids all around the world, and that are linked in and supported and empowered through the organization and the works that's been done there. But the whole idea was, so we were touring around the islands and playing these songs. We wrote many more songs, and it was just a great way to connect and build community through the arts and through the music, and carried on from there. But so in terms of my own evolution as an artist, I think that it's that the style and the what I was interested in musically has shifted and changed, but I think the core central theme has really remained the same. It's like how the power and the intention behind the music and what it can bring. And I mentioned this in the chapter, so I'll just kind of mention it briefly. But there was a point where I really realized, I had been creating music and performing music as a way of like kind of affecting and making change on the outside. But there was a point where I had to kind of turn all of that internally and really say, and that's when I realized that the music really is my medicine. It's so much deeper than even what's happening on the outside, and there's that connection, in the inner and the outer. But it was like, oh, regardless of what I do with my music on the outside, whether I'm touring or albums or whatever the message is on the outside, it first has to really land and connect and shift and make those changes in the internal landscape as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's a beautiful. What a journey! Yeah, growing up in Hawaii and seeing those climate issues and addressing those with the Earth Guardians. That's impressive. As a teenager, so it already started when you were a teenager. And you're so. What I like what you shared is as well, that you say first it has to. I don't know exactly the words you use, but it has to be. You have to connect with yourself before you can share it with others. And I can imagine sometimes fear gets into the way when you want to create something new. And what does fear mean to you?
Well, I think fear is like one of those kind of emotions. It's like a dominant human experience. Like we have, so many of us have it. It's fear is it's kind of ever present, right? On so many different levels. And so my journey with fear is really how do you work with it? How do you walk with fear? How do you walk with it, and so that it doesn't paralyze you? And I was reflecting on this too in my own journey. And, I think when I was younger, I was very ambitious and, took on big projects and, did big tours. And I speak to this again in the chapter as well. But when we do kind of come crashing down, or when things don't necessarily go as planned, or when, you know what I mean? When the challenges arise, and when things can happen that feel like a failure, I think that's when the fear starts to grow and become stronger, because then you start to think about, well, what do I want to do next? What do I want to create next, right? And then the fear comes up of like, oh, well, what happens if, that happens again, this happens again, this happens again. Do you know what I mean? So based on the past experience, especially when we have big falls and big challenges in life. And so that's really where my relationship with fear came to the fore, because it's like, am I gonna, let those fears of those things happening again completely stop me from living my dreams and making things happen, or taking risks, or stepping into the unknown? And something that I've explored so much, and I work with my clients on this as well, is that being in the creative process is all about courting the unknown, being with the unknown, stepping into the unknown. And that's terrifying. You know what I mean? It's not the straight edge path. It's not the predicted. It's not the mainstream. It's like you're venturing into the wilderness, and there's all kinds of fears can come. So, and so how do we work with the fears? What is fear for us? That's really for me. Physical practices are a big part of that. The breath I mentioned. A teacher said, fear is excitement without breath. And so that was a huge lesson. It's like, how do we breathe more? How do we connect more? How do we take that fear and utilize it as energy and move forward despite the fear, to really, to dream again, as the title of my chapter says, to dream again. But I realize that that's just the first step, right? It's like we dream again, but then what do we do with our dream? We have to move it into action. We have to take those steps. We have to climb the mountain, whatever, we have to go for it. So I realized that it's almost like an incomplete chapter, to dream again, but then to live the dream, to actualize the dream, to manifest the dream. That's where it really gets exciting.
And I like that. And you experienced it. I would like to zoom in on that, because I remember reading in your chapter. I love your chapter, and what I read in that was you did this big projects with the band, and you were traveling, touring, and then suddenly the project collapsed, and then you felt stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And then you experienced some fears, like, hey, you would like to dream again, but there were some fears holding you back at the time, like, yeah, but I might fail again, and it will be very painful again. Correct?
Yeah.
So what did you do specifically? What was the strategy that you used to overcome that fear and dream again? And now, because today you're an international musician, you got your albums, you're working as a coach. So what did you do in that moment? How many years ago was that you started?
15 years ago.
15 years ago. So what were the strategies that you used 15 years ago to get back in the flow?
Yeah, beautiful question, Obed. For me, it's kind of like these micro steps. It wasn't really one big, there were definitely big aha moments. Something that it's like a mantra for me. It's like, keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. So in terms of strategy, my first commitment is to keep at it, to keep taking those small steps. So even in kind of my darker times, when I felt really kind of lost and confused and defeated, my self-esteem was crushed. I was away from family and community, which have always been super important part of my life. So I didn't have that to lean in again. I really did feel alone. And so it was like navigating through that darkness. It's like kind of like literally walking through the darkness, kind of like, okay, orienting myself. How do I move through it? And, oh, I see a little bit of light. Okay, I'm moving towards that light, whether that be an opportunity to, I always known like the ability to when we have these fears and these kind of these situations that really kind of bring us down, how do I keep that energy moving? And that's what I mean by kind of keep showing up, keep that energy moving, because things can get blocked and stuck. How do I get into situations where I can move the energy, get unstuck? I know that enough about it's like, how do I get unstuck? So to get more clarity, you know what I mean, to kind of see the next step. And a good friend of mine in California says, like, sometimes, Jeremy, it's just asking yourself, what's the next best step? I may not see, I mentioned it, the image I use in the chapter is like, you're driving from California to New York, you know that you want to go to New York, you have the map or whatever, and you're driving through the night and the headlights just shine far enough to see, 100 meters in front of you, you know what I mean? And that's sometimes all that you get to see. We might not be able to see the whole picture, but we get to see that, like, that much. And so I'm going to take that step and take the next step. And when we're present in that next step, then we have the best of our ability. We can kind of assess the situation, resource ourselves in the best way possible, and then go, okay, is it here? Is here? I'm like, okay, let's go this way. Boom. And that's the direction that I have to go in.
Yeah, nice.
I hope that made sense.
Yeah, that's to me. And I also, what I appreciate what you just did is, what are the resources? And you took a deep breaths. And I know you very well, of course, also from past experiences. And then I chose you for a reason, because I got to know you. And it's beautiful that you decided to become part of this book project. And I know you said fear is excitement without breath. And I know breath has been a very important topic for you, to overcome fears and to achieve results. Can you expand on that? Like, what do you mean with that exactly? Like, what is breath and how to use that breath? Can you, for example, do you know a technique that the listeners could apply when they're experiencing fears?
Oh, absolutely. There's some real powerful in that, is one thing. Became a breathwork facilitator over the last few years. And so I've actually been doing powerful work, touring not only with the music, but leading workshops with my wife, workshops in sound healing and breathwork journeys and things like that. So, and I've also been in the kind of yogic practices, living in India for many years. So the pranayama is a powerful form of breathwork. And then just, and so there are so many different techniques, depending on the beauty of the breath is really, really what is our intention. So with some of there's certain techniques, if I need to calm down my nervous system, if I'm in a real heightened moment of fear, let's say, a powerful breath work, let's say, technique or practice is what's called box breathing. Have you done the box breath?
Yes.
So, yeah. And so if you're in a real heightened state and you really need to kind of focus your mind and get yourself really engaged, the box breath basically means it could be 4 counts or 5 counts or 6 counts, but essentially you breathe in for 5 counts, you hold the breath for 5 counts, you exhale. This is all through the nose. You can breathe out through the mouth, in through the nose, exhale, and then hold on the empty lung also for 5 seconds or 6 or 4, whatever your capacity is. But what's beautiful is that you really are spending time in the top and the bottom of the breath, which is really where you're able to be more expansive and really feel kind of an emptying out, or really a release, if you will. So if there's tension in the body, if there's like fear, if I'm, activated and triggered at some level, just okay. Hold it, release it. Just feel all that tension releasing. And then at the end of the breath, I'm holding for 5 seconds. I just feel this empty, and then I can breathe in. I like to put a little smile on the inhale, just to like kind of almost like that the air is going through a filter of joy and happiness, appreciation and gratitude, right? Hold that, feel that, allow that to expand for 5 seconds, let's say, and then exhale. Releasing. And even at the end of the exhale, 5 seconds, when I'm holding, there's just this, you feel this expansive. And the most important thing about that is that oftentimes we feel that like our whole reality kind of like becomes very small when we're stressed and when we have worry and anxious. We're feeling that, and kind of like contracted like this. So the most important thing is like actually open up the senses, open up and remember that we're far more than our physical experience, that we can expand towards that. And what happens there, and anyone who's done martial arts, which I've studied martial arts for many, many years, is that in any situation, we want to be able to know and almost like see all the way around 360 degrees. We want to be able to almost like we're seeing and feeling with our whole being and body. So when we breathe like that, or any other breath, that allows us to open up and expand our capacity to feel and to sense, we have that much more available and online. So if we online within ourselves, not in the computer online, but we have so much more accessible and available, so we can make the right decision, that we can respond accordingly. If we're on the battlefield, you know what I mean? That's how we would be able to, to be present. But if I'm like locked down and not breathing, I'm certainly finished.
Yeah, that totally resonates. When I was younger, oh man, I'm still young, but
When I was a young lad.
when I was a teenager, I did jujitsu a lot, and I also was doing tournaments. And I remember getting on the mat, and there's one opponent, and a lot of people are watching, and then you gotta fight each other, of course, like with rules, and you have to wear gloves and stuff. But it was pretty scary. It was always scary, and you gotta fight each other and work each other to the ground, and arm locks and chokes, and it was a lot of adrenaline. And I remember when you share this about martial arts, it's true, because my sensei, my teacher, also told me to breathe, keep breathing, and that helps to stay present and adapt to the situation. Nice one. Thank you for sharing it. And the breath I find very powerful myself as well. I use it a lot in life, in the surfing, in the gym, but also when with coaching and with doing summits, like that summit, having all the people together 2 weeks ago. I was like, okay, it's scary also, because things might go wrong, and that's not comfortable. So keep breathing is definitely an important key. So thank you for that box. So breathe in 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, and breathe in. Thank you for sharing that.
And just repeat that. Yeah. Well, there's a few that I use, depending again on the intention. But one quick one I'll also mention, if you don't want to get into the whole box breathing, is just matching the inhale and the exhale in terms of time. So breathing in through your nose for, let's say, 6 seconds, out for 6 seconds. And the idea there is there's this heart-brain coherence that's really important. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but in terms of like syncing up the brain waves, and also the heart, the beat of the heart is so important to like our ability to feel and to respond and to be centered and connected, with really what's important in life. So as the most simplest would just be like to match that breath in and out, and really focus on appreciation and gratitude in the heart, and that can really get us into a centered place. If you're really freaking out, the box breath really gets us focused as well. And there's other techniques, but I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And that's what this podcast is so cool about, because I can ask you all these questions that a bit more depth. Thank you. I'm sure it's for the listeners also interesting, because the body is a great tool to help us to overcome fears, both in physical situations when we want to do martial arts or bungee jumping or things like that, but also when we're working on projects or we need to get on stage and get in front of a group of people, and fear comes in, and we can use these type of techniques also to calm down and be present, and then provide a better quality service to others. And now what question, let me have a look. Yes. What is the biggest fear? I've got a lot of questions here, so I want to ask.
Pick the most important ones.
Yeah, I'll pick the most important one. What is the biggest fear that you've ever encountered regarding your dream? And how did you overcome it?
Similar to kind of a way that I approach one of the last questions, was this kind of these small increments, And in the same way as like climbing up the mountain can happen step by step, the same thing can happen on the way down. You can fall down bit by bit, you know. And every time that you kind of go to show up and like say you make a commitment towards your dream and then you procrastinate, you don't follow through, you get distracted, whatever happens, right? You get kind of, you take a blow and you kind of go, you fall down, right? And then getting back up can even be a bit harder that next time. And then let's say you go back again and go back. So whether it's you're getting knocked down by yourself, by your mind, by the critic, the negative thoughts and feelings and that are pushing you down, or outside circumstances, you know what I mean, where the theme of betrayal was a big thing that I had to work with. And well, where did I betray myself even before that? But anyway, so in terms of like things that knocked me down, similarly, like in terms of the biggest fear, so I wasn't like one big moment of fear I wanted to speak to. I just was like kind of like these small little moments that really did break me down. And then it was like that journey back was really a real powerful thing. And so those little small victories, those little small steps, those small conversations, the small ways of shifting perspective and doing a kind of a pivot, from like, okay, like, I mean, I remember, when I got the courage to get back into, I mentioned in my chapter to, one of my dream was to record my album. I had all this content, I had all this music that I'd been, wanting to do for years. And I tried it in different configurations and different people. It just didn't work out, the timing of it, whatever. But every time it didn't work out, it just kind of was like, I felt it was a big setback. And so when I was like kind of to have the courage to like go for it again, I had to really, really muster up the strength. And a huge part of that was like love and support, and I fortunately at the time or now and at the time, had the loving support of my partner, my wife, Melanie. And I realized for me, having kind of love and support and encouragement was a really important part of the turnaround, and also recognizing that I do need support, that I do need to ask for help and guidance. And that's where we met you, Obed, along the way, right? It was on the way, like, to even open up and accept, like, hey, what about working with a coach? What about like helping someone support and kind of ground and create structure and accountability and all the kinds of things and more that you provided, but that I didn't really accept that kind of support. I always felt like I was like the stoic one who had to kind of go out and make it happen all by myself, and it's kind of like it's like a combination of strength and vulnerability can be a strength, or is a strength, right? It's like, oh wow, like what do I need to like create this, make this happen? And I know my own shortcomings, you know what I mean? And then I'm able to get reflection and see those shortcomings, but also connect with people who have done it, who have done certain aspects of it. It wasn't like that, you held specific medicine or pieces of the puzzle, and other people that I worked with ultimately to go and continue to move towards, towards my dream, towards what I wanted to create. But I just felt like the experience that I had was like each step along the way, and each time I was able to get a little bit more support and get a little bit more traction and get you know what I mean? Then I was able to feel more courageous, more connected, take bigger risks the next time, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of tackling those smaller things as I lead up to those bigger things, you know what I mean? And building that kind of your own success formula. It's something I work with my clients on. It's like looking back at life and seeing, well, where were you successful? Where did you do things? Where did things really work? And maybe it'd be in a completely different field, but you can take how I was successful here and we can apply it here and understand my unique way of succeeding, so that I can continue to refine that and continue to take on more and more in terms of like the, taking more risk and feeling, getting that feedback and having the affirmation come in from the outside as well.
Oh, yeah, man. And I just want to say that when I was coaching you 3 or 4 years ago, it was such a privilege. So I felt so privileged to help you because you're such a talented musician and coach, and yeah, to help you and but also I remember the things you were challenged with. But what I also really appreciated was that you always had this inner drive to be better, to do better, to improve, and also the meaning of the songs, that you didn't just want to make money, and with your music, or no, you didn't just want to be on stage and help people and share your music, but you also had this message around behind your music.
Mm.
And this deeper meaning, which I find, I love listening to your music. I truthfully do. I have you on my Spotify. I follow you there, and I like listening to your music. And also, and when you shared what's an important key point for you at the time for your field, you created a team around you. I helped you, but also you had a producer who was helping you. Yeah, you have a beautiful, loving partner. You mentioned Melanie. Now, for those don't know who's Melanie, of course, your loving wife, and all of that together, you allowed. I guess what you're saying is you allowed. Before you were like more stoic, like I can do this myself and I don't need anybody, and you decided to open up to get that support from others, and that really changed the game for you. And you got this beautiful album. What's the name of that album for Jeremy Roske?
Yeah, it's called Heartstorm. Heartstorm.
Heartstorm. And where can people find it if they want to hear this music?
Yeah, that's any of the digital platforms, Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you listen to music, even on YouTube, you just type in my name, Jeremy Roske, Roske, and the album's Heartstorm. That's my most recent material. Yeah, and I actually released that I think it was a week after my daughter was born. It was quite a build up, you know what I mean? And every, life has all of its, twists and turns in the most beautiful ways. But yeah, what an incredible, offering just to the world.
Amazing. And how amazing that you're now also helping others. You've been through a journey, ups and downs. You've learned a lot, and I'm so glad to hear when you decided to also coach others on their creative projects. Would you like to share a bit more about that? What type of coaching do you do, and how's it going?
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks. Thank you for that. What really kind of built on this whole beautiful conversation, really recognizing. The question that I continue to ask is like, what are the inner and outer conditions to thrive? And each one of us has our own unique ecosystem, let's say, our internal and external ecosystem where we really we perform at our best, where we thrive. I mentioned it, that beloved partner, community, support, ability to serve and to connect and to, bring my gifts through. So I feel like at some level, we all, want this. So as I went through this journey that I've described a little bit of, really realizing, my music is core and central. And in a sense, I can't say it's a selfish pursuit, but I know I do it for me. Like when I do my music, I feel so connected to it. It's a way I connect with my emotions. If it supports and benefits and connects with others, like I celebrate that you love the music. Many other people do. I get emails about my music and how it really shifts people's lives. And this is incredible. But I realized that that there's so much more. There's so much more that I've cultivated and developed over my life, and how I want to be able to support, others who, are struggling with similar themes, trying to identify and connect with, how to, actualize, their dreams, how to manifest their creative projects. And that can be as an artist, but, for me, I call it like the creative orientation, which applies to anyone and everyone, depending on if you're, building a business or, launching a new project or whatever. There's principles, there's creative principles that apply and that really allow and support us to step into a place of empowerment, where we're able to really understand our blueprint, like what is our unique, makeup. And so that we can, that we can move powerfully forward in our lives. So, yeah, multitude of things, but just in essence, to really be the creator, to be the creative force in your life is what's at core in terms of the coaching.
Wonderful, man. Awesome. And where if people are interested, where can they learn more about this coaching?
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely you can connect with me through my website, which is kind of still mostly focused on my music, but there's information available there in terms of experiences and how to connect more with the coaching. And so yeah, we look forward to connecting with people that way. Jeremy@jeremyroske.com is my email, or yeah, just through jeremyroske.com, the website. And yeah, I'll just say, it just feels so amazing to take, decades of this journey in the creative work that I've been doing, and, through my own experience, like kind of the transformational work, and to kind of bring those two together, and to be able to offer it in this way, working with people. It just feels like, yeah, I just feel that deep sense of purpose and fulfillment, and really here to support and serve. So that's the invitation out there. If you have something that, a breakthrough that you want to move through, or a project that you want to ground and anchor, just to know you have support and someone on in your corner, it can really help, move the needle.
Wonderful. I'll put the link below this video.
Thank you, man.
And yeah, like I said, you're such a heart-centered person, and you've learned so much. You've also, in our conversations, many conversations that we've had during the sessions, I just feel that wisdom. And I also felt it with the group sessions. You just help carry the group. And I also saw it in the summit 2 weeks ago. You were there with so much presence. And when you shared your story and your song, there's so much wisdom there. So I'm just so excited to see that you're just sharing it, not just with music, but I mean, that's awesome. You're doing it with music, and also just sharing it through your coaching.
Awesome, brother. Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for creating time today, and doing this beautiful sharing your wisdom and your experiences with us. And yeah, I'm understanding you're going to America now with Melanie and the little one. Have a wonderful journey.
Yeah, we're off next week. Yeah, it's incredible to step out of the nest, as it were, and engage the beautiful world. And that's really, I like to finish, just kind of close with that, with words of encouragement on that sense, to be able to reinvent, to recreate yourself in any given moment is just so powerful, to lean in, using fear as a compass, because that's the theme, really this fear into courage, but like where am I growing into, like how can I reinvent myself, and really explore myself in a new way, because every moment it's like we're not who we were yesterday, and we're not who we are going to be tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like there's an ever-changing, evolving process that's going on, and I think it's really a healthy practice to like let go of those old forms that allow us to be able to see and experience and create ourselves anew in this moment, and align with that in a good way. So I just encourage everyone who's listening and reading the book and hearing these stories and seeing how people, really transform their lives with the courage to like completely, go in new directions and recreate things, and just how exciting and fulfilling that can be. And yeah, I'm just grateful to be a part of that.
Absolutely. Beautiful closing words, Jeremy. I love it. Yes, and the book, you mentioned the book, I almost forgot. If the listeners are interested to read and buy the book, there's a link below as well. And all the proceeds of our book will go to the at-risk children to help them with education, and so that they also have a chance to achieve their dreams. And thanks again, Jeremy. And yeah, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Obed. Yeah, honored to be here. Thank you. And thanks to everyone who showed up.